Okay, while we're waiting, everybody, take out your pen and paper and write down, what are you wearing on your feet right now?
I'm wearing shoes, actually.
I don't think I've worn shoes for days.
I bet
Uh,
most people aren't. Flip-flops, Lisa. Okay.
I'm wearing flip-flops because I'm at home.
Hey, we've got
Nothing,
270
socks.
people.
Great. Wow, that's fantastic.
Well, welcome everyone. We are recording this event.
We've got socks, flip-flops.
Bringing your coursebook online, session 3 of Taking English Teaching Online. We're on the Wednesday session, bringing your coursebook online. So thank you, all of you, for joining us from Europe and beyond. I see a lot of people from Poland here again.
Hey, Sada.
We are coming to you from Serbia, Belgrade, Serbia. Once again, your major tools today will be your chat box and the reactions button, where you can give a thumbs up or applaud like that. So please give us a thumbs up or an applause. We do not accept any criticism. It's only thumbs up or applause. All right, thank you.
Thumbs up. Great.
Cool. And it's a good idea to rename yourself, as I'm going to do right now by clicking on this button
so I can see you.
And rename. I'm going to become Kevin Relo.
Great.
There you go.
Oh, we've got Costa Rica here.
If you don't want to put your full name online, you can just go with a short version. We are recording this today, and we will be asking you to contribute on our Google Classroom, and we may indeed use what you contribute to show the rest of the team or the rest of you teachers as a model of our activities. And we'll probably do that in just 1 minute. As usual, please have a piece of paper and I hope a big thick pen so that you can do things like that. Because we will have activities today. And now I would like to introduce you to our specialist, Lisa Hundley, who is coming to us from Austria today. Lisa, over to you.
Thank you, Kevin. So welcome everybody. And I'm here with Kevin and Ivana, the super team here. And we're going to be talking today about bringing your coursework online. Nice to see you again. And as Kevin mentioned, I am in Eisenstadt, Austria. I'm from the United States, from Washington State originally, but I live and work in Austria. I teach at a gymnasium, so students aged 10 to 18. And we've been online since March 16th, and we're actually slowly starting to go back to school in class by class. We'd like to look at some previous homework submissions. Remember yesterday when we did the graphic organizer for vocabulary words with the rectangle? We got some great submissions, so we'd like to show you a couple of those today. Here we had one word, dove, and the translation. Can somebody help me out? I think that's Albanian, but I'm not sure. Can someone help me out, please? If that is, I don't want to give you inaccurate. It is Albanian. Okay, great. So that's one. And then we had another one, custom. So these were made by you. Feel free to hop into Google Classroom after this session and make your vocabulary graphic organizer if you like. We have another word, garden, gotten. Thank you very much for your contributions. We really love seeing those. And also love your comments and feedback in our Google Classroom. Here's a very relevant at the moment vocabulary word. Fantastic. Okay, and remember, we also had the infamous Sniglet Dictionary, and we got some great submissions here for you from you. Corona mood, the mood you have, or the mood you're in if you have to stay at home in quarantine. Feeling moodish, slightly under the weather. Thank you, Cornelia, for your contribution. Can anyone, just feel free to pop it into the chat, can anyone give us a sentence with moodish? We also have Corona Jammas. I think everyone can identify with Corona Jammas that you wear all day. Thank you, Natalia.
Frankly, pajamas can be overdressed in certain days of the COVID period.
Oh, hi to my sister Anne in Washington State. She's also a teacher, so it's really neat to see her here again. Cora cheating. Ah, okay. Pretending to have problems with the internet connection. Marzana gave us this fantastic contribution.
Does that ring a bell for teachers? I wonder how many of you suspected some of your students of Cora cheating.
Give us.
I get a thumbs up from Christina.
Pop an emoji if anybody has Cora cheating students or colleagues. You don't have to mention names. Great, thank you very much. So we really enjoyed seeing your contributions, and we hope we get some more. Pocket School, this is a great one. Lessons online with the use of your smartphone. I'm sorry.
I love this word.
It makes so much sense.
Majana, huh? Majana, it's probably pronounced. And I think it really should become a word, and too bad people don't get paid for creating new words, because this is a really good one.
Stress tech. Has anybody ever felt stress tech? This is fantastic. Anonymously submitted, so the feeling you get because of technology. I think a lot of teachers were immediately stress teched, kind of in the middle of March or maybe earlier. Okay, so my goals today are to give you an overview of how I've adopted textbooks into my own teaching and to share a few observations along the way. What this is not going to be is I'm not going to present one specific kind of textbook and give you like an e-version of it. I'm also not going to give you worksheets that you can use with your class tomorrow because there are many, many resources online that are fantastic. But I would like to just share some information with you and get your input and feedback today. We also have a few activities for you. So the first thing is, and we're going to go to Google Forms, which we tried out yesterday in our Google Classroom session. What's your experience with moving your textbooks online? And we're going to flip screens here, and I'm going to take you over to a Google Doc. And Ivana has posted the link in the chat. Thank you. And you can answer the questions in the chat, but we'd really love you to answer in the Google Doc, which is coming up here. Oh, let me find that. Because everybody should be on a red document today, a red survey. Oh, we got 10 responses already. Great. By the way, all of the Google Forms quizzes today are red, so that will give you the clue that you're in the right session. 26. We've got 4 questions here, and I'm going to pop onto the responses and show you what we see. So the question, does your school or institution require you to use certain textbooks? Looks like the majority of you are answering yes to that. You also have an online component to your textbook so far. How useful is the online component? Vary. 20% of you don't have one. And how much flexibility do you have with your online teaching? It looks like quite a high percentage of you do so far.
Yeah, that's good. I mean,
yeah.
I think in this stressful period, we're going to need some flexibility.
Absolutely.
But we also need guidance to be flexible with
the material and with students as well. Okay, let's wait till we get to 110. And then we can, there we go. Okay. So it looks like most of you have quite a bit of flexibility, maybe not complete, but you feel like you have some. You have a useful online component to your instruction or your textbooks because you do, most of you have an online component. Okay, great. And your school's required to use certain textbooks. All right, feel free to keep responding there, but I'm going to turn it back over to Kevin. Mm-hmm. I want to show you a photo here, just a second.
Yeah, that photo is not appearing.
That's okay. We can keep going.
It's on my slideshow, but it's not appearing.
Okay, that's all right. Okay, so when preparing to go online, I don't know how much preparation you had, but in our case, it was pretty much overnight, in the sense of we kind of heard murmurings that we were going to have to move school online because we heard of schools in Italy closing, and Austria is a neighboring country, and we thought, it's kind of, is this really serious, or it's only a matter of time? So it happened pretty quickly that the answer was yes, we are going to have to stay home. So I know a lot of us have been teaching online, not because we're doing an online course, but because we've had to, because of this global pandemic. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. And when considering what to do with your textbook materials, I think it's very useful to consider using the community that we have in the greater world as teachers, and who's already put material online that you can use, for example. I think it's also very helpful to include classroom elements that in your online teaching, for example, photos of the textbook that the students are, so the students see something that they're familiar with, maybe videos of the textbook, just to bring the in-person experience into their online experience. And I think a good question to keep in mind is, do you have to use everything? I mean, I think as teachers, we adapt textbooks anyway. You don't necessarily do every single exercise in a unit, unless for some reason you would have to, or maybe you would want to. But I think adaptation is key here, of deciding what do I need to use and what can I leave out. And sometimes you don't even need a textbook to teach a certain point. So I think it's good to think kind of big picture. Like, is this, if I want to teach a certain point, do I really need this textbook, or can I use something else that's already out there? One thing too that I've observed from parents especially, and because this is where often misunderstandings can arise, is it's important to think about limiting the number of formats that you present to students, electronic formats. For example, if I ask students to submit or upload, if I ask students to upload something in a Word document, and I clearly say Word document, that's easier for them than if I say Word or PDF or this or that, whatever you want, because they get confused about, what am I supposed to do? How do you want it? So I think it's really valuable to consider the kinds of formats that you're presenting to students as well, because oftentimes the parents have to help the students upload things.
Right, keep it limited,
Yeah.
standardized.
And something that can be used in a variety of with a variety of tools, like something you could do on a phone, laptop, tablet. And don't forget that pen and paper is also, there's nothing wrong with it. You can deliver this virtually, just like now you know what I'm wearing on my feet right now. Hey, message received. I love cheese, a poem. So there's no need to reinvent the wheel. I think you as teachers know your students, you know what you're working with, and you know the materials that you have. And it can be overwhelming sometimes to think of, I have to do everything. I have to meet standards. I have to meet expectations. I have to satisfy everybody. But you know what's best, I think, and you know how to access resources to get help if you need it. So there's no need to reinvent the wheel in many regards.
Hi, Lisa. Now I'm going to go to a picture
Mm-hmm.
of you, a brainstorming that you and your learners or
Great.
students did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. So this is a photo that I took on March 13th, which was a Friday, and we actually started staying home the following Monday. And I literally did this with all of my students. I just made a list on the whiteboard, physical list with whiteboard marker about, okay, we've got this Corona time, and what does this mean? Like, what are we going to do? Um, so are we do you take your textbooks home, or do you have to do everything on the learning platform? What are we going to do? So I created this list with the students. So these are a lot of their suggestions. What could they do on their own? What do they need to do together? What do they need my help with? So this was kind of nice also to get an idea of what ideas they had. um, they wanted to like have FaceTime meetings every day. And I said, well, I don't know if we're going to be able to do that, but they had all these great ideas that some of them we've implemented and some we haven't. But it was nice to have that experience of kind of co-constructing this preparation for an unknown new situation. So again, I would recommend as teachers that we use our community of resources. I'm sure we've all taken teaching ideas that we've begged, borrowed, or stolen, and find out what's out there. One example I like to share always when I think about moving my textbook online is the website or the app Quizlet. Give me an emoji if you've used Quizlet before. I see some head nods going on. Can you give me who's used Quizlet before? Okay. Wave your hand if you've used Quizlet for vocabulary teaching, for example. Okay, wave your other hand together if you've used it for teaching something like content, like understanding the content. Not so much. It's great for vocabulary, isn't it? Because you can just get the one-to-one correspondence. So I want to show you an example here of what I've used Quizlet for. And literally what you can do is you can take the title of the textbook and the unit number, and you can enter it into the search function of Quizlet. And lo and behold, someone out there in the world of teacherdom, someone has created a vocabulary list with the exact word that you are teaching your student, because you are probably not the only one who is using this book. So here's an example. I took Unit 13 from the series that we're using here called More. Unit 3, I typed that into the Quizlet search button. And here's what I found. Ta-da! Somebody had already made, or several teachers actually, had made different learning sets of vocabulary words. So I just click on that, send a link to my students, and let them practice and enjoy it. And students like it because there are different game elements also in Quizlet. If you're not familiar with it, I highly recommend checking it out. Another thing I found important is I like to assign my students novels and unabridged versions of books to read. Depending on the level of the reader, abridged versions are fine, or learner versions or class sets are fine. But I really like to give them the challenge of reading a full book, just as any speaker of English would read. And oftentimes it helps if they have an audio version of the book, so somebody narrating the book. It's not an ebook per se, it's just the audio version. I guess you call it an audiobook. And some of you, I'm sure, are familiar with audiobooks anyway. And I actually got feedback just about a week and a half ago from a student who was reading the novel, the American novel, The Outsiders. And she said that she really felt that listening to the narrator, which I sent them this link on YouTube, listening to the narrator read as she read along really helped her comprehension and her getting into the story. And I think it's important to include, I've mentioned this before, but I just want to say it again. It's important to include elements of the classroom also, I think, just to keep a connection between student and teacher and class community. Because, and Ivana reminded me of this, that some students, routine is so important for some students, and they get stressed out if their routine is shaken in any way. And I think we can all agree that for a lot of people, our routines have been completely uprooted. People have dealt with it in different ways, and that's fair enough. But for, I would, not only younger learners, because we can't underestimate people's fears and anxieties when they get stressed out, but it's important to keep a routine that can really help. I've got a tip for you that sounds so simple that you maybe some of you are doing this anyway, but one thing that's super easy is literally use the book. Just take the textbook that you have and just use it. What I did here was I took a photo of an exercise and I put it into a Word document. And I find that this is more personal than, for when the students get this document, it's more personal than me just typing them an email message saying, do exercise 10 on page 113. I mean, when they look in the book, they'll see this, of course, but they're making that connection. The teacher has the book too still. So this is what I do. This was a different exercise, but a similar concept. I just take a photo of it with my phone and I pop it into a Word document. Another thing that I find useful, I showed you this during the first session, but when I put it into this electronic format of a Word document, and again, it's just a copy pasted inserted photo into a text, just relatively easy to do. I can also mark on the photo, and using the draw mark feature that the photo format of JPEG or PNG or whatever you're using has. And I can mark clearly, don't do this exercise with an X over it, and circle, do this exercise. Because I don't know about you, but I often assign exercise 12B and I get 50% exercise 12A. And I always have to chuckle. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure what was unclear about me saying 12B, but oh, I did 12A, I did something. So this lets me reinforce what I might tell them in the classroom. You could take this one step further, and you could use a Word document to create a Google Doc. I mean, you would create a new Google Doc, but it would be the same information. And the benefit of this is you can make it a bit more interactive, and it's easy to store in the cloud space of a Google Drive, and you can access it from any tool. For example, I put the text into a Google Doc. I had the photo on my phone, and I linked the photo directly from my phone into my Google Drive. So I didn't even have to copy paste anything. It's like magic. What I really like about Google Docs, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow as well, it's fantastic for collaboration. So if you give students permission to edit the document, they can go in and actually work on something together. I had Sandra Vida, thank you very much for being my guinea pig here. She's my Google Docs maven. If you can see this pink rectangle, that is a different user who's not me coming in and asking a question within the document. And then there's also a chat feature. So the student can ask you questions, or you can ask a student a question. Like, what did you mean here? I don't quite understand. So it's a bit of more of an interactive way to put a document together. And again, it's quite easy. You just take the material from your textbook. You don't even have to include a photo. I just like to, because I think the connection is important to their in-hand material. All of these things that we're doing now are encouraging digital literacy, which is hugely important these days. I don't think it's even a question of should we be digital? I mean, we are. And data, for example, is like the #1 commodity in the world. I mean, nothing's going to change about that. And it's important to make students aware of how to interact online and how to use tools online. I think it's very useful to prepare students before you ask them to do something with a new tool by giving them some super simple tasks just to get them familiar with a tool. Of course, try it out yourself. As I mentioned yesterday, try it out with friends, colleagues, do run-throughs. I always find that getting students to volunteer to help you, there are always 3 or 4 who want to try new fun things, and if they can use the computer, it's even better. Oh, someone's asking me, how many students do I teach? I have about 110, I think, altogether now. I have 6 different classes. So I have what's considered a full-time teaching load, ages 10 to 18. So another thing you can do also is you can take the material from the textbook, and this is for a higher level course or a higher level class, and you can replicate the exercise in the book and physically put it into a Google Doc or a Word document. And yes, I typed this by hand. I mean, it took a little bit longer, but not much longer. I replicated the format that was in the book, which was highlighted in yellow, and I did the same thing. So when the student looks at the Google Doc exercise, it looks almost the same as the book exercise. And this was just a vocabulary building exercise that was in their book for them to study. And then I was able to make a quiz for them very easily. So I took the questions literally from the textbook, matched sentence 1 with the answer, A, B, C, D, and I just put it into a Google form and made a quiz. It's a little time, it's time consuming. I struggle with the term time consuming sometimes, because I think if you're engaged and you're interested in creating material, you're in flow and you're enjoying it. If it's not something that's enjoyable, of course it feels more time consuming. But entering text into a document didn't really take much time. So this is what a quiz would look like. It's just like the questionnaire that you answered today. I could have set it up as a quiz and given you points for it, but that's not the purpose of asking you questions, so I didn't. And this is a good way to check comprehension, for example. Another thing you can do, pardon me, with Google Slides, when I discovered you can do this and that I could actually do it myself, it was a big aha moment for me. You can, and by the way, there are lots of YouTube tutorials on how to do this. Just type in how to make texts editable and you'll find something. You can make the textbook text editable, so a student could physically type their answer in here online. Another way I like to bring the textbook into the classroom is to make little grammar videos, especially for younger learners, just to review material, also to introduce new concepts. And it gives them a familiar face, a little interaction with students, and with me, sorry, gives me a chance to sort of virtually interact with them. It's asynchronous, but it's still, I think they have the feeling, okay, the teacher has come into my digital world for a few minutes. And I usually use pen and paper and markers and Playmobiles and whatever I have lying around. And they think it's funny and then they remember it. So I go through sometimes and I just literally show them how to do an exercise. I share the answers with them, even though they have the answer key at the back of the book, because I think them seeing me write a word by hand is more personal than them just finding the word in black and white in the back of the text. And I really think there's something about handwriting that is unique to everybody, and you can't replicate it by machine. I mean, yeah, sure, you could copy it digitally, but it's very personal. And I think when students see your handwriting, it's nice, even if they can't always read my handwriting. I can't always read theirs either, but and I tried to vary the materials that I use in my videos just to kind of keep them lively. I show them literally, like, go to page 115, unit 13, look at the grammar explanation, listen to my grammar explanation. And I remind them also how to use the ebook. I noticed in our survey today, a lot of you said that you have an ebook component or online component to your textbooks. And I made the mistake initially of sort of assuming that the students would know how to use that. And I had to go back and kind of go step by step. Okay, this is how you access this. This is how you access this feature. And I think that's helpful, just to take a few minutes to remind them of all of the things that they can unlock or use when accessing the ebook. for example, just showing them how to fill in the blanks, match the picture with the number, with the vocabulary word. And I tried to also use relevant examples, and that's another key way, which I'm sure a lot of you are doing. You have to adapt your textbook material to current things that are maybe a bit more stimulating. You know, a lot of writing exercises, say, for example, especially for younger learners, write a birthday party invitation, or talk about a trip that you took somewhere, or your favorite lunch at your grandmother's or something. Well, people can't do that right now. People can't have birthday parties. People can't go on vacation. People can't, and a lot of people are having a hard time just managing. So I think to ask a kid to write a birthday party invitation, on one hand, it's nice because they can use their imagination, and that's important to foster, and also to maybe just not talk about the coronavirus for a few minutes. But on the other hand, it's can be kind of like, oh yeah, I'm just reminded of the situation and I can't. So I try to bring current examples into their grammar. Here we were looking at adverbs and adjectives, for example. There are a lot of tools out there, and I think it's easy to become overwhelmed about all of the things that you could do and all of the different kinds of worksheets that you could make for students. And you feel like, I should be doing this and I should be trying that. And if you have time and energy and the wherewithal to explore, I say go for it. But remember also, you don't have to use them all. Here's one, for example, storyboard.com. I really like it, but I haven't figured out how to use it with my students quite yet. And I'm not going to do it this week. Ooh, somebody just said that, they celebrate birthdays online by sending photos. That's a neat idea. We have an activity coming up here that's something new and different. And Kevin is going to show you an activity. We're going to swap screens. I'm glancing over at your chat comments.
All right, thank you, everybody. Yeah, I thought at this stage we would actually take something, the kind of thing you might see in a textbook, and say, can we do this online? Because this is from a physical textbook. It's actually from a magazine called English Teaching Forum. How many of you know English Teaching Forum? Okay, I see some people nodding, giving thumbs up. Good, because there are probably 100 or more issues online at americanenglish.state.gov. And I suspect that Ivana is giving us the link to those as I speak. So this is what the activity looks like in the magazine. So I'm going to move forward, and let's just take a look at the birds. Which of these birds are your favorite? Or which do you like best, if any? I just want to familiarize you with the birds. I'm looking at the chat box. Okay, peacock seems...
I think the peacock's winning.
Is there a parrot? There is actually not a parrot, but... Oh, yeah, there is. My fault. There is a parrot and a toucan. Okay, great. So now you're kind of familiar with those birds. Let's look at... I want to draw your attention to that grid on the right side that says name of bird, peacock. So this is one of those times when I would like you to grab that marker and your piece of paper, if you have one, and just write something like this: bird facts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because then we can actually try to do this activity. Because you will need to do some strategic thinking. And we can see that one of the We already have number 7 filled out for us. It's the peacock. So let me reveal the bird facts now. And you'll see that this is a kind of game, puzzle. We are going to need to put all those bird names into the remaining 9 slots. So let's start with number 1. As you can see, I've already marked the clues for number 1 on the text here. So bird number 1, that's what we're dealing with now. It can't fly. It has fewer than 6 letters. And it's mostly nocturnal. So, which one of these has fewer than 6 letters, is mostly nocturnal, and can't fly? You can show us on your paper, or almost. Someone's got it. The kiwi can't fly and is mostly nocturnal. So there you see on my piece of paper, I've got number 1 and number 7, the kiwi. Now let's take a look at number 9. Let's see if we can solve number 9. The clues are, it has fewer than 6 letters. It will eat fish, number 9. It contains the letter G, and it begins and ends with the same letter. It begins and ends with the same letter. So it can't be the penguin. Let's see what we got back. Whoa. Eats fish. And now everyone's getting it. It is the eagle. So I've got number 1. Oh, good. People have it there on their papers. I've got number 1. I've got number 7. I've got number 10. Let's do one more together. One more together. Number 3. Here's our clue. It can't fly. It begins with the letter P. It ends with the letter N, and it has a G in it. What could that be? And now everyone's saying penguin. And I'm going to put it on my piece of paper like this. So now I'm going to leave this up here for you. And can you figure out numbers 2, 3? Oh, we have 3 is penguin, right? Yeah. Can you figure out now 2, 4, 5, 6, 8? Oh, eagle is actually 9. And you can use your own paper to work out the puzzle. You can tell us in the chat box if you like. And while you're thinking about this, I want to talk about my approach to an online activity like this. I think it's important to take the students through the activity step by step to guide them quite carefully. In the physical classroom, you do that too, but I probably would not have done it so much. You may need to see those birds again. So how is anyone doing? Does anyone have the answers yet? How about the answer to number 2? Which bird is number 2? It begins with a P.
I'm going to be that student who looks at the chat and cheats on the answers.
I'm guessing, is this number 2? Am I correct? Okay, parrot, yeah. And bird number 4.
I'm a Koro cheater.
4 is mostly nocturnal. So what are we going to have there? Do you agree?
What is...
And number 5, what clues do we have? It eats fish. And it contains a G. What is number 5? Ulyana from Ukraine. Okay, seagull, good. And number 6. What is bird number 6? It ends in an N and goes like this. Okay, we got chicken. And number 8 begins with the same letter as number 4. Well, that is an owl. So it begins with an O. What is number 8? Ostrich. Number 9 is eagle, right? And number 10 is the toucan. Is that correct? Or is it? Yeah, the toucan. All right, so we actually did a full activity together. Right? How did that make you feel? Did you feel like you were participating? I'm curious because, as you know, online, it's really hard to involve a lot of people. I think this is more than a vocabulary activity with the names of birds. It's a reading comprehension activity. It's a thinking activity as well. So thanks for taking part in that. And I'm going to turn it over to you for your thoughts on this, Lisa.
Great, Kevin. Thank you very much. Yeah, it was nice to see everybody engaged. And I think this is a kind of activity where somebody asked before, how do you keep students motivated? If you create activities where everybody's opinion counts and matters, there is, in this sense, a correct answer for each number, 1 through 10, but students can kind of help each other. It's okay if they look at the chat, for example, if they're quarter cheating just a little because maybe they can't figure something out. So yeah, I agree. It's more than just vocabulary. It's critical thinking skills, deductive reasoning, and you can see in the online format that you have to maybe do a little bit more explaining and more facilitating than you might have to do face-to-face.
Sure, and of course that activity would be fine to do asynchronously outside of the live format.
Also, sure. That was fun. It's neat to see everybody's participating. And just a reminder you can easily just use pen and paper instead of having everybody enter something to a chat. It's often easier to keep track of. Okay, so one thing that I think is important to consider also is to adapt textbooks that maybe are a little bit older to current topics. So can I get an emoji, a thumbs up, or a wave, or whatever you like, if anybody's using textbooks that are older than 2015? Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. Can you give, or an emoji if you're using textbooks that are older than 2015? How about older than 2005? Older than 2005. Any textbooks that are older than 2000? Give me an emoji. Some people maybe.
I mean, 2008, that's kind of out of date.
I know,
these days,
you know? These days, absolutely. So I think it's important to remember that you can take the topics that are in the book and you can adapt them to today. I found this exercise in a book that I have in my apartment, and a textbook for intermediate learners, and I had to chuckle because it's about it's an article and a quote by Steve Chen, who's one of the co-founders of YouTube, and this was from 2005, and he says, "There's just not that many videos I want to watch." And I thought, I don't know of anyone who has that problem, because I don't know about you, but when you go into YouTube, you kind of get sucked into, as we say, into the vortex of YouTube. And there are YouTube videos on every topic now. But in 2005, that wasn't necessarily the case. So you can adapt something like watching media, which was new at the time, to today's headlines, for example. One source I like to use is Breaking News English, and some of you may be familiar with this, I'm not sure. It uses actual newspaper headlines and newspaper articles that are current. This is one I found, which was about Netflix subscribing, the numbers of Netflix, I'll start again. The numbers of Netflix subscribers surging during the current pandemic. And I like these exercises because the texts are manageable. There are always pre-reading activities. There are discussion activities. So this is a great way to take something that it was in a textbook that you can adapt to something you find online. You don't even have to find it online. You can just think of it from the student's life of how you could adapt it, because they won't identify with 2005 necessarily. Adult learners might, and one thing here is there are different role plays and different things that you can adapt to the online environment as well. But there are definite trends in themes that textbooks have. There's always a topic about viewing habits or entertainment preferences or things like that. So we're going to take you over to another question real quick. Instead of doing this role play, we're just going to ask you some questions really quickly. And if you look at we got a question here about your TV viewing habits during lockdown or while you've been at home. So what's the best thing to watch on TV? I'm going to flip you over to my screen. Ivana will put the link in to, somebody wrote Netflix. Ivana will post the link into the chat, and we're going to go over to Google Docs, and you're just going to have a 4-choice questionnaire. And where are we? There we go. So you have a drop-down menu, so please feel free to just choose one. And this is an example of a questionnaire that you could make for your students. So I'm going to pop over to the results, the responses. Oh, I got one. I have 5. They're coming in. They're coming in. The choices are best thing to watch during the lockdown: movies, chat shows, the news, or cooking shows. All of it in English, of course. All right, let's go over to the responses. Movies is looking like it's getting the most responses. Movies has 37, cooking shows 4, 5, 3. Okay, well, let's wait till we get to 70 responses. Oh, 72. Okay, great. So it looks like 80% of you think that movies are the thing to watch on TV. Thank you very much for participating. That's another way that you can engage material online, or you can engage your students with material online, is you can make some sort of quiz, questionnaire, anything like that, so that they wouldn't have to do it for example, in a Zoom room, which they could as well, but this is just a different option.
I think it's a great tool because all groups, whether they're students or people like us, teachers, inherently want to know what other people's opinions are. And these pie graphs give you a really simple way to conduct polls and find opinions.
Yeah, and this would also be something that you might use, for example, before you start teaching a lesson on TV viewing habits or preferences or things like that, is to just ask your students beforehand what their input is. Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to Kevin. Oh no, sorry, we have one more question. Hang on a moment. This question is completely different, so when you see it, don't be alarmed. And Ivana, I think, is going to Ivana's going to pop the question into the chat. So, could you live without technology, by the way? We're talking about technology this week. And you've just received an offer You have the chance to take a free 2-week vacation or holiday at a luxury resort, but there's one condition: no technology allowed. No internet, no laptops, no phones. Would you do it? You have a choice of 2 answers, yes or no. Wow, that was fast. 98 responses. 102.
I wonder if you had to pay, then you'd probably want to bring your phone. Right?
I guess, yeah, maybe. Oh, so you could live without technology.
So some people just say no, 15% or 16%, just like, no way. I don't care if it's free and luxury. I need my phone. It would be hard for me to go without a computer, but I did it once
I don't know
in
if I could do it
2014.
I don't know if I could do it for 2 weeks though.
You'd scare a lot of people. Your family and friends would probably think something's happened to
Where
you.
is she? Absolutely. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Let me pop it back. I'm going to send it back over to Kevin.
Okay, thank you. A lot of great comments in the chat box.
Yeah.
So sometimes just a simple poll like that serves as a stepping stone to get students speaking and writing.
So this is just another way that you can adapt a classroom or a classroom textbook question that you might get. For example, if there's an older book that features the question, can you live without computers? Can we live without technology? I think today the answer would be an overwhelming no, but you can adapt the question. Here's a snapshot of a textbook that asks just that: can we do without computers? I would just change the question: should we try it? What would happen if we did? This is also a great way to teach modal verbs. Excellent.
That's a very cool updating and adaptation, Lisa. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's nice because computers are something that we have all the time. It's nice to flip it around and think about not having it, which a lot of, as you know, a lot of younger people today can't even conceptualize that because they weren't born without the internet. They're so-called digital natives. So coming toward the end of our session today, and I just want to also mention that I think when considering how to incorporate your textbook into the classroom online, it's important to keep the big picture in mind. Think about what the students are going through, how much they can absorb with their school situation. I also like to encourage breaks from screen time because they're in front of the computer sometimes several hours a day. Sometimes they're in front of the computer several hours a day playing video games, which they're totally engaged in. I have nothing against video games. I think they're great for learning. Gaming is awesome, but they need a break from the actual sensation of sitting in front of the screen. So you can create exercises that ask them to go outside and play for half an hour, 60 minutes, whatever, and report back to class. Encourage reading. They have a flexible time schedule now, most students, so they can actually read and enjoy it and not be disturbed by others in class. Sharing things that are happening at home in their community, current events or holidays or all kinds of things. And also to think about how maybe they're changing during the pandemic.
Mirketa says after 2 months of online teaching, she doesn't want to see a phone or a computer.
I think we're all going to be happy to be able to hug everybody in person. And I have my students keeping Corona diaries, and we'll talk more about that tomorrow as well. But the students can enter their thoughts. And this is very simple to do. I just ask them to write for 5 or 10 minutes every day and say day, date, mood, and anything else happening. And you can see things like, my birthday party was different this year because I couldn't have a party with my friends. And remind them of things that other people that are celebrating as a community, holidays. These things are still going on, sometimes in giant Zoom rooms. All right, we have a little tiny homework assignment for you. And I noticed that a lot of you have already started it, so that's great. This is in our Google Classroom, and it's a very simple homework assignment to get you to jump onto our Google Doc. All you have to do is add your name. And we'd love for you to participate. And we have a lot of people who've already started. What did you think? We'd love to get your feedback. Please click here. For our Facebook Live users, we have a QR code you can just zap with your phone, or you can go to menti.com. And Ivana has put the link into the chat. And thank you very much for your participation today and your comments, and it's been interesting to see also everybody checking in on our Google Classroom. All right. Oh, and if you're celebrating Ramadan, have a nice iftar.
All right, thank you, Lisa, for another excellent session.
And thank you to Ivana and Kevin, the team, the magic team.
Yeah, I'd just like to leave you with a rather silly Zoom idea in case you're ever in a session and you just don't really know what to do. Just freeze yourself and see if you can convince people that you're frozen. For example, if I go,
wait, where's my
and just hold it to see if you can make people laugh.
Can you do that? Wait, I'm going to change my name. I showed some of you before.
Well, we are eager to get your feedback today, and I hope you had a good time. I hope that this hour
To me, the
did
time
not feel like an hour.
The time just flew today. Wow.
It did.
If anyone can see my name, this is a little student hack that they just turn off their video and they change their name to reconnecting ... So the teacher thinks, oh, their internet's down. Uh-huh.
Well, thank you, teachers from everywhere. It looks like we've got a lot of Albania and a lot of Poland. So thank you so much for coming today. And it just gets more exciting every day. I mean, I don't know what anyone would rather do than check learner progress in their spare time. Huh?
But tomorrow, that's what's going to happen. Twice tomorrow. So you can come for the 4 o'clock or the 7 o'clock show, or both.
So yeah, the Thursday matinee show will be at 4 p.m., same channel. So we hope that you'll come and bless us with your presence. Thank you, everyone. Wave to them. Goodbye, Ivana.
Bye. Thanks for joining us.
Goodbye, Lisa. Thank you so much, everybody.
See you tomorrow. It'll be strange on Friday. It'll be like summer camp. Bye. I'll write to you.
It will be. It will be sad, but yeah, we'll connect with you.
We'll stay connected for sure.
Okay, this is the sad part when I hit the button. I'm really gonna do it. It's really gonna. Goes. Oh no, I can't do it. End meeting for all.